Forever. Dog.
So we made it. It's Megalopolis Weekend. Megalopolis opening weekend. But now I'm panicking, Joe, because we were just looking on our phones before we started here. The only way you can see, because that's the part of the movie everyone's been talking about. The one thing that everyone's been talking about from this movie is that there's a part that has an interactive element where someone, we initially heard someone from the audience, like a volunteer, would go up and there's a microphone at the front of the theater and you ask Adam Driver a question and then he answers you. That's what we initially heard. It's now been clarified that it is I think Coppola was like hoping that this like AI technology would be ready in time and then Adam Driver could literally like answer any question asked to him through the magic of AI. And now it turns out that it's going to be a paid actor who already has a scripted question to ask Adam Driver. And it's only available at a very limited number of screenings because Lionsgate wasn't going to add a budget item at this point. It wasn't already in the budget for actors at every screening all over the country. So there's something called Megalopolis: The Ultimate Experience, at which there will be a paid actor to ask Adam Driver this question.
So according to our phones,
but we can't get a friggin' ticket to this thing.
They're only doing the Ultimate Experience at the AMC Century City only tomorrow night at 6:45 and Saturday night 7:45 or 6:45. Every single seat is taken.
They're all sold out.
It's completely sold out.
And there's no more
dates.
No more lists.
So does that mean that we will never ever see, as long as we live, Megalopolis: The Ultimate Experience?
Or we could do the classic. We just go to Century City, buy a ticket for anything, and then just
sneak in.
Because I know they don't list. Yeah, I know they don't list the movies, but we'll be able to tell which theater is the Megalopolis theater. I think it'll have an aura.
It's the one with just cheers and rapturous applause emanating from the doors. Brett,
yep.
Are you positive that in a different screening, we, the audience, don't get to fill in the blank?
No. Doesn't happen. No. I mean, maybe I
would happily be the guy
because even
get up and ask Adam Driver.
No, because it was never that. I don't know why that rumor went around. Because it was like Jason Schwartzman did it, and then at the special screenings, it was like selected film journalists got to do it.
So what happens during the regular movie? Do you just sit there and there's silence, and Adam Driver looks down in the left-hand corner of the screen,
someone who's not there.
He goes, "Enough."
Yeah, or he says, I guess nobody has any questions.
Maybe there's something like that. So we'll never get to see it the way it was intended.
We'll never
I'm going to stand up and say something during that part.
You should.
I don't think there'll be anybody else in the
You should
theater.
ask him a question.
So does that mean probably...
Any chance for a Girls reboot?
In New York, there are probably 2 screenings in New York. You can go to whatever, Lincoln Center, you go to wherever they put it. And then that's it. There's 4 screenings. Now there was preview screening day last week where they had this chat back, this live stream talk back with Spike Lee and Robert De Niro. The whole takeaway from the entire event was it was the most awkward talk back experience ever, which is saying something because it wasn't even live, it was virtual. It was still awkward. And secondly, De Niro just said that, quote, Trump could never make Megalopolis was one of the things he said during the live Q&A. And
which was the question on everybody's mind.
We don't know. We don't know what was asked.
I'm sorry, Trump,
we'll never see it.
Sorry, Trump could never have made Megalopolis, like made the movie Megalopolis. Yeah, probably because he's not a filmmaker.
He's not a filmmaker.
What?
But you bet my boots, he's a builder. He could make a Megalopolis.
De Niro hates Trump so much. De Niro hates Trump.
De Niro's such a wonder.
He's run out of insults.
He just De Niro Trump.
I'll tell you something about Megalopolis. Trump could have never made this movie.
What the hell? All right.
Well, look for in your town. Look for screenings of Megalopolis: The Ultimate Experience, and try to get a ticket to it while Lionsgate still has money to pay live actors to be at these Ultimate Experience screenings. We can't even find a screening in Los Angeles that has a paid actor at it. So that's the way the cookie crumbles for Megalopolis.
It's tough.
This week on Movies Baby, Joe, we got a lot of new movies to review.
Woo-hoo.
A lot. I'm talking The Substance, Wolves, Transformers 1, Never Let Go,
Bang.
A Different Man, plus the box office updates and Hollywood breaking news that you crave. And in the second half of the show, this is for Patreon subscribers only, we're picking the matchups. This is very exciting.
Yes.
We got a new season of Weekend at Bergman's coming out. Our other show where we pit a popcorn movie versus an art house movie that shares something in common, and then we have to say which one we like better, and we have
to be honest.
To be honest is the key there.
It's one of the great games, one of the great art
so
games.
Much fun.
Playing a Weekend at
It's
Bergman's
so much fun.
where you watch two movies back to back. One's an art house film, one's a popcorn flick, and you just sit there in the darkness and decide in your heart and in your soul which one you liked better. It's led to some pretty controversial takes over the years.
I mean, the very first episode, we said we liked Weekend at Bernie's better than the Seventh Seal, which we did.
Which we did.
We did.
We did
honest.
the exercise. We sat down. We watched it. If you haven't,
if you watch those two back to back and you're honest about it, you might come to the same conclusion we did.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is getting away from these foregone conclusions and self-fulfilling prophecies and trying to seem a certain way by talking about movies you haven't even seen. No. We are honest film critics. We watch these movies start to finish, and we're honest with you about our reactions, and we've carried that over into movies, baby. But we're going back to the original for some special episodes coming up. We're going to do Weekend at Bergman's the 1980s. We're doing movies of the 1980s. This
is like more than a podcast, Brett. It's like a project. This is our Megalopolis.
Yes.
We are going to inhale the 80s. We're going to break down the 80s.
Megalopolis.
We are going to explore the 80s. You can listen to season 1 and season 2, 1999, on our Patreon right now. So check it out if you need to catch up. But join us tonight. We're picking 80s.
This is a big one.
We're picking what movies we're watching, folks.
You've submitted some incredible options. We're going to go through them. We have some of our own, and we're going to pick. I think we're going to come up with like 36 episodes for this season. So because there's so many movies. 36 is still going to be hard. No, not 36. 32. 32. 32, which is going to be hard to narrow it down to 32.
Can't wait.
But that's in the second half for Patreon subscribers only. But for now, we got the first half of the show to do. Joe, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Then, Margot, please roll that theme song. There it is. Oh. Tell you what, Margot knows how to hit a cue. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you? Do you have it bad too? I know that you do. Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. And then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who the Philly movie freak." There he is.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Oh, yes, it's true. Oh, I've got it bad, too. Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at every movie theater all over town.
Even the Century City one.
Cut to black, roll credits. Whoa, baby, I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, the Georgia Movie Dog. The Georgia Movie Dog.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the old future of New Hollywood. My name, as always, is Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here with my partner in crime, Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! It's the big one this weekend, Joe. I'm talking.
Even I know about this.
You know about this one.
Yes.
Georgia versus Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Even I know about this.
I'm so hyped I can barely contain myself. But we're not here to talk college football. We're here to talk movies, baby. In which case, Margot, will you please show me the money? How'd that old box office do this weekend? Oh, wow. Man, Burton is back. We keep saying it. We have to keep saying it because Beetlejuice, in a big surprise, is number 1 at the box office for the 3rd weekend in a row. The 3rd, barely edging out Transformers 1 with 25.9 domestic. Transformers 1 made 24.6 domestic. But this is a huge, huge surprise. Everyone thought Oh, there's no doubt Transformers 1 is going to be the top of the box office this week. They were projecting 30 to 40 million.
Oof.
And they've got, and well, of course they would. I mean, it's, considering how well animated movies have done this year, between Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 2, I'm sure Moana 2 is going to do great. Interested to see how The Wild Robot does this weekend.
Right.
Getting it's got Iron Giant vibes, really good reviews. Doesn't always translate to box office, but we'll see. But animated movies have done amazingly well this year. I mean, they got Chris Hemsworth in this thing, Scarlett Johansson in this thing. Transformers, despite critical sort of, low points, has been pretty bankable at the box office.
So you saw the film. What do you think happened here?
I think what happened is, I don't know if this should have been such a surprise, because if we can look at that Transformers box office graphic when you get a second, if you look at, because I had always in the back of my head thought, well, the Transformers movies always make money, otherwise they wouldn't keep making them. There was the Michael Bay ones, and then eventually kind of moved over to Paramount. But these things must be making money, otherwise they wouldn't keep making them. But if you look at the Transformers movies, literally, and you can always, with a franchise, you can always kind of discount the first one, because the first one, they're not always sure what it's going to do. So the first one is third in terms of box office. But then if you take that one out, you will literally see that each subsequent sequel made less money than the one that came before it. So it's literally the highest grossing one of all time is Revenge of the Fallen from 2009. Then it goes Dark of the Moon from 2011, Age of Extinction from 2014, Last Night from 2017, and Bumblebee from 2018, making a paltry 127 million. So these diminishing returns on each single movie, and that seems to be continuing this trend. So I think, if anything, we should have seen this coming.
I mean, Bumblebee opened with less of a gross. You're right, 21 million opening weekend, and then this one coming in at 24.
Yeah. So there's some fatigue around the Transformers franchise, which I think is been confirmed with this. I think maybe they thought, well, if we do animated, then we can market more to a kids audience. Yeah. And then maybe we can sort of.
Well, they had that Spider-Man animated movie that Sony put out. They put out 2 of them. People love those. They did it again with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles recently, the Mayhem Madness one. Apologies, I forget the title there. But that one was super popular and beloved. So maybe they thought this Transformers one would have crossover appeal between older audiences and younger audiences. But just from the layman's perspective, I didn't see the audience particularly geared towards children. We have young children. But did you see any children specific advertising for the film?
No, I think the marketing, and I'll give my review later, but just the marketing, I think it got lost in between 2 audiences, because it was, I think it was hoping it would just bring in a kids audience through it being an animated movie, but a lot of the work around the advertising seemed to be devoted to sort of like Comic-Con nerds, to let them know, like, hey, we're being real.
Don't worry, the robots got guns on their hands.
We're being real authentic with this thing. So the marketing seemed to be reassuring, like, the diehard adult fans that their beloved toy franchise wasn't going to get messed with. And then I think they thought the kids would just come out for it because it was animated. But, it's September, back to school. I don't think, people have homework now. Stuff's got, like, it's not a great time to release a kids movie.
There's other weekends that exist. They could have just bumped it if they believed in it in some capacity.
I think they didn't believe in it.
All right, well, I'm excited to hear what you think.
But the budget was 75 million, so they got a ways to go. They're up to 48 total worldwide right now. They're going to have to get to about 150 to see profit.
Transformers 2 on Paramount Plus next year.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. And if we can see the box office one more time, there were 2 other new releases that cracked the top 10. Neither one made much of a splash, though. Never Let Go, the Halle Berry-led horror that you're going to talk about, made 4.5. It's up to 5.5 worldwide total right now, but that's just on a $20 million budget. So it needs to get to around 40 to break even. That's a pretty steep climb. Yeah, but
could have done better,
who knows? They probably
could have done worse.
Pre-sold the distribution. That, like, they'll probably find a way to get to 40. And that's the beauty of being an indie movie. It's like you can always figure out a way to get from 20 to 40. You can't figure out a way to get from like 50 to 300 though if you're a big movie.
Blink Twice had a huge week on pay-per-view or video on demand, VOD. And there's no reason a Halle Berry-led horror movie couldn't do gangbusters when it comes out video on demand.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a smash hit, but it likely breaks even. Similarly with The Substance, I was surprised because of all the buzz for The Substance. My screening was packed.
But we live in a bubble.
Yeah, we do.
Don't we live? We host a movie podcast, so
Yeah.
it seems like the whole world's talking about The Substance.
No, you're right. Less than 2,000 screens. But it made let's
really
see.
respectable $3.2 million for Mubi, who's distributing it. I think that's good. I mean, in limited release, Brett, for an artisan film with
per screen though, less than Never Let Go. So it wasn't like it was like packed at packed at the places that it was at. It was still kind of a lukewarm.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, not disastrous, not a hit, but just a little lukewarm for The Substance.
Especially for a movie that has award season ambitions. You have to, that's not the greatest sign in the world.
And that's on a $17.5 million budget. So again, they don't have a long way to go to profitability. They'll probably figure out a way to climb their way there. But it has to be a little underwhelming considering, I mean, the marketing for the movie could not have gone better. There was
huge stars.
Yes.
I know Demi Moore's like not the it girl of the moment, but
Yeah.
she is / Quayle is. So
Quayle definitely
you
is.
got both
Yeah.
of them.
Yes.
They're both great in the
Yeah.
film. It's
You had a
surprising.
good hook. Maybe people aren't down for body horror. I
That
don't
makes
know.
no sense to me, or maybe you're right, but
Yeah.
like that's so crazy because we always think about horror as such a good bet. But Longlegs is doing like true crime horror, which is
Serial
so
killer
popular.
horror, yeah.
This is doing good old fashioned
Conceptual body horror.
people
Yeah.
exploding
Yeah.
blood and stuff.
Let's talk movie news, and we had some breaking news today. I got this from you in the text thread. Some breaking
Emergency.
news. A movie that we haven't talked about yet by one of our favorite filmmakers, Harmony Korine. This guy already has our favorite movie of the year, Aggro Drift. He's already got another movie coming out from his company, Edgelord, that looks equally as wild and interesting, called Baby Invasion. What do we know about Baby Invasion? And Margo, what you can pull up that graphic
It's
whenever you have
about
it.
a ruthless band of sort of evil Robin Hood-esque house terrorists that use some sort of AI or something to map babies' faces onto their faces in all of the cameras.
So they
in the
rob
house.
the houses of the wealthy,
Yep.
and they look like babies.
Yep, and they're not giving it back to the poor. They're like violent and scary, but all the cameras pick them up as babies, so it looks like a nice baby is murdered.
There we can see one here, and it's
breaking
shot
into your
like
house.
it's shot like a first-person shooter. I've heard
Stuff
it
like
has
that.
some like sort of anime sort of like aesthetics to it, and the graphics, like the graphic overlays.
It has a ton of graphic overlays
Yeah.
and weird little stuff like that. And then you can also see the horns there. That's the Edgelord horns that they sort of sell
That's right.
3D prints of, and that was featured in Aggro Drift. And,
Yeah.
continuing some of the themes that the studio is working on. But, we all abhor our AI future, and especially what that means in regards, well, in a lot of ways, but one way is content development. But
Korine, Harmony
everything
Korine
Edgelord does
doing it.
is different
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah.
And man, that looks fun. and
That poster
crazy.
looks amazing. I've seen there's a little teaser on the Edgelord website that looks amazing. This
Everything
is
coming out of creative houses like that is super exciting.
Yes.
And like when it comes to the future of new media and what's next for video games and skateboards and brands and movies, I love looking at Edgelord. So when I saw the Baby Invasion poster today, Brett, I'm sending that to you and Alex.
yeah.
You got to see that bad boy.
As soon as I got it, I was so psyched. And I love that all the babies are like doing their confused faces. Like that seems to be like the baby emotion.
Cute little babies.
That's getting mapped is like when a baby's sort of like confused or sort of in wondering about something.
Can't wait.
This would be terrifying to see 6 of these people come into your house in the middle of the night. Yeah. All right. Can't wait for Baby Invasion. Next up, other big news this week was Emerald Fennell, the filmmaker responsible for Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, very divisive movies that have come out in the last couple years. Emerald Fennell's next film is a Wuthering Heights adaptation, the Emily Bronte novel Wuthering Heights, and casting was announced today. It was announced that Margot Robbie will be playing Catherine Earnshaw, the main character, and then Jacob Elordi will be playing Heathcliff.
Right.
Heathcliff. And this was immediately met by a huh? What?
What?
Who now? For 2 reasons. Not because of, obviously, those are big
Good
stars. They can get movies financed. That makes a lot of sense. The reason this was met with some confusion is, number one, the character of Catherine Earnshaw is a teenager in Wuthering Heights. I think 17, 18 years old. I mean, there's some time jumps, but in the main sort of arc of the story is a teenager. And then Heathcliff is not white in the book. Heathcliff is, and there's some. It's a 19th century book, so like the description of race is a little unclear, but he's definitely not white.
The word they use is gypsy in the book.
Dark-skinned gypsy is the phrase that is used. Now, the reason that this is important is because of the conversations around representation in Hollywood that we've been having. Absolutely.
Okay.
But for this book in particular, these aspects of the character are not incidental. These aspects of these characters, Catherine Earnshaw's age and Heathcliff not being white, are crucial to the plot of the book. Because otherwise, you're going to watch this Wuthering Heights adaptation and be like, why are they being so mean to Jacob Elordi? Like, why are they like treating him like a second-class citizen? Like, it's the 19th century and he looks like, he looks like Mr. Darcy. Like, why are they being so mean to him? It's because the book is about the family's prejudice against this, sort of adopted son who is considered not equal to the white children in the family and is treated with the prejudice characteristic of the 19th century and still to this day, characteristic of Western history.
Knowing a little bit about Emerald like we do, what do you think her take on the source material is going to be?
I think her take is going to be, life's a party, bitch.
It's like Marie Antoinette, but sucks.
Yeah. What? Who cares?
Marie Antoinette.
Life's a fucking party, bitch. Who cares?
Oh, Marie Antoinette, but it's bad.
What I don't understand is Emerald Fennell, who is, I mean, look, nobody chooses what life they were born into, but she was born into a life of wealth and privilege, and I'm sure if she'd given the choice, she would have chosen that one.
Sure, yeah.
I mean,
she doesn't hide it.
Her 18th birthday party was covered by tabloids. Like she's been like Paris Hilton famous since she was a teenager in England. But she makes like issue movies. She makes movies about class and sexual violence, and Wuthering Heights for a 19th century novel has lots of stuff going on politically and culturally in it. And yet she always seems, from Promising Young Woman to Saltburn now to Wuthering Heights, she just seems completely illiterate in the issues that she chooses to make movies about. It's like, what is your interest in these issues? Because your interest seems like casual at best. It is. I think she turns social interests into, or cultural issues into aesthetics is a great way of putting it. Yeah, her interest is sort of stylistic and aesthetic. And that's why her handling of the themes always feels half-baked at best. And now just seems like she just blatantly doesn't give a shit.
Maybe there's a charitable look when 10 years down the line, like Promising Young Woman has its lovers, like there's like some people like that movie, and then Saltburn
has a lot of
but we also might just chalk it up to sophomore slump. Like maybe she develops, maybe she moves on, but right now it's looking like kind of a rough start out of the gate for Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights from a PR perspective.
And this is just for context. Because there have been several adaptations of Wuthering Heights. Tom Hardy played Heathcliff as recently as like 2009 or something.
I'm sure everybody that ever played Heathcliff was miscast as well.
The one exception, I want to shout out Andrea Arnold's adaptation of Wuthering Heights in 2011, which had Kaya Scodelario as Catherine Earnshaw and James Howson, a non-white actor, as Heathcliff. It's also an amazing adaptation. It's like super low budge and like you can feel fucking Yorkshire. It's just like it's so good.
I was being fucking nice, but obviously.
No, Andrea Arnold's gonna eat your fucking lunch
compared to fucking joke Emerald Fennell. Obviously.
All right. Well, good luck. Best of luck to Emerald Fennell and the
Jacob
cast and crew.
Good.
Let's see what's going on here. What's the person if you had to do Las Vegas odds?
Okay.
There is a phone call in which Emerald Fennell lightly suggests, can we like
use
is there anything we can do to Jacob's complexion
can we cast him in?
Right. Is there anything? I'm obviously not saying like
No, don't put it on his face. Just
but
like,
is there anything?
Can we make
anything that we can do just for authenticity's sake? For authenticity's sake. There's definitely a conversation.
That is going to happen in private with one of her post-production people and maybe the art director or something like that. There are some makeup. There'll be a slight conversation about this.
And then the production company gets a call. Hey, you look, I got to protect my reputation here. Emerald wants me to do blackface on Jacob Elordi. Can somebody talk to Emerald, please?
Jacob's begging for me to do it too. He's all in. He's 100% on board with it. In fact, he's a little bit more adamant than she. Can you please call them?
All right.
Margot also yes-anded hard. Margot also said, "Can I have a little?"
After all, I am Heathcliff, and Heathcliff is me. All right. Next up, we got a corruption scandal. We got a developing corruption scandal in Hollywood. So last year, the Golden Globes were sold. The second most famous award show in Hollywood. They got well, you gave a little shrug there. You put it above the Oscars?
I put it under the Grammys.
I didn't have it over the
okay, yeah.
I mean, look, you could say, I don't know, Independent Spirit Awards get bigger every year. I mean, the Golden Globes better watch out. But they were owned forever by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. But there was several corruption scandals involving influence peddling, insider dealing,
European stuff.
Yes. And they were forced to sell.
It's like a real FIFA situation.
So who do they sell to really clear the air? It was sold to media magnates Todd Bowley and Jay Penske, who also own Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and IndieWire. So basically, the trades now own the Golden Globes. Which, sure, I'm sure that'll fix the corruption problems.
Let the critics decide, Brett. It's right there.
Well, I'll tell you, we've already got some indication of how this is going to go because there's this pitch deck that apparently has been going around town. And it's just a menu for the big studios of what you can buy to increase your chances of winning a Golden Globe. So you can buy a, quote, panel conversation followed by an upscale dining experience with a guest list of 30 to 40 voters. And that costs six figures. I don't have an exact price, but I saw six figures. So let's say at least $100K. And then on top of that, the Globes now charge $2,000 per movie to submit and then $5,000 for an admin fee.
What?
And there's other perks in this pitch deck that you can buy as well.
You know what?
So you can just literally buy a better chance of winning a Golden Globe. And they just did this immediately. First year. They didn't wait.
Smart. I mean, not smart. It sounds like it sucks, but let's just assume two things. Number one, the Golden Globes don't matter and were always rigged and was always pay to play. Let's assume that. And then number two, their ratings are so down. They have to cover the gap, the profit gap that they're missing. So why not just start selling everything and just making it what the Golden Globes always was, which is just a big PR campaign for the studios. That is so funny, Brett, about the menu being so public. That's just
crazy.
It's
crazy.
We just live in, this is why Megalopolis coming out next week's really important.
Yeah, sure. Please tell me.
We got to have a great debate.
Yeah. And I mean, they knew it was going to get leaked. People they just send this thing out.
Fuck?
They don't care.
The leak is an easy way to get the word out that you can buy a table at the Golden Globes. I would have leaked it if I worked there too.
Their phones are ringing off the hook right now. Ring off the hook.
I'll take 4.
Also, I saw Disney is going to push hard for Deadpool and Wolverine to get awards consideration.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah,
so
they want a best supporting actor nom for Hugh.
Yep. Best actor for Ryan.
Crazy. Well, you know what they will get? They'll definitely get some Globe nominations.
Apparently.
Yeah. They're going to buy 6 of these upscale dining experiences. Yeah. That'll seal the deal right there.
Tom from Succession is going to get a best supporting actor nom for Deadpool and Wolverine too. At this point.
Now we've got some other one other news item to discuss here, which is we talk a lot on this show about streaming and how it's affected the financing of films, the distribution of films. It's a hard conversation to have because there's so little transparency with the streamers in terms of how much money they're making, how they make the money, how much they're making per movie, how much they budget, et cetera, et cetera. But we did get every twice a year, Netflix does this massive data dump. They put out this spreadsheet that was like, they're not doing like a cool press release because they don't want you. I think they might have to do this, or they feel this way they can say they're
like
being
a
transparent.
Washington data dump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they intentionally make it very cryptic and hard to read into. So it's literally just like a 16,000 line spreadsheet. But luckily, some very dedicated film journalists, who are not on the payroll of the Golden Globes, went through it. And one interesting thing they found that I think brings up an interesting question is the top 6 animated movies on Netflix in 2024, and 9 of the top 10. So the vast majority, 90% of the top 10 animated movies on Netflix, and animated movies are always going to be some of their biggest, watch movies.
6 of these animated movies are their top 10 biggest.
No, sorry. The top 6,
yes.
and then 9 of the top 10.
Thank you.
Are from Universal,
right? Okay.
From Universal, and that is like Universal themselves, Illumination, which does the Minions movies, DreamWorks, which does Shrek and the Wild Robot and stuff. Universal owns those companies. The majority of the top animated movies on Netflix are from Universal, but here's the question: Universal is also partners with NBC. It's they're all owned by Comcast, but NBC is a Universal partner, right? NBC has its own streamer, Peacock. So the question is, why are all of these Universal animated movies going to Netflix and doing so well and not going to Peacock? If they're doing that well, why wouldn't Universal want them on Peacock? And I'll give you the party line, and I'll give you my take, and I want to hear what you say. The party line is that this is all working to plan. This is all strategic. They window these movies on Peacock for 2 months, which is for exclusivity, and then they send it to Netflix, which has a wider reach, and that gives them a wider reach, and then they're going to bring it back to Peacock at the end of the run for exclusivity again once it's had this wider run. Okay, that makes sense on paper. But the issue at this point, what this says to me is that, because Netflix pays them a licensing deal, obviously. What this sounds like is that in the world of streaming, NBC Universal has realized that they can make more money in licensing deals, putting their movies on other people's streaming services, than they can putting the movies on their own streaming service. The question then that raises for me is, streaming once again just feels like this shell game Ponzi scheme where you're always like robbing Peter to pay Paul, that you can make more money. It's almost like a fucking producer's loophole or something. You can make more money having your movie on somebody else's streaming platform than on your own streaming platform. It just is more evidence that streaming feels like a bubble. It feels fake. It doesn't feel like it has longevity. It feels like the financials are all kind of questionable. What do you think? Am I reading too much into this, or is streaming a big bubble that eventually is going to burst and collapse the entire entertainment industry?
No, I think it's a interesting question. It's sort of the question du jour in Hollywood and in entertainment. I don't know if streaming is a bubble that is going to burst where we won't have streaming in the future. I think streaming broke the industry. It broke television. It broke movie distribution and development. And what's been causing all this consternation in the entertainment industry beyond external national economic factors is the fact that streaming broke an incredibly lucrative cable model. TV was a fucking money machine for the studios, and they destroyed it by being stupid and creating streaming. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. The streaming platforms are going to be the platforms. I think that streaming over the next 10 years isn't going to burst so much as evolve. Boring answer, but probably facts.
Yeah.
Streaming will start to revert to bundling. We already see Fox, ESPN, and another one trying to create sports bundles across networks. We're just building our way back to the cable box via different means. Streaming will evolve, and the platforms, will grow. Some will die. I bet one will die in 2025, whether that's Peacock or Paramount Plus. Like, not every single one is going to have the scale to be profitable. But insofar as this specific practice of windowing and licensing content, I don't think it's. I think it's the right choice for today. It's not a long-term, not the long-term strategy. But licensing content, they pay Netflix pays so much money
Yeah.
to have Boss Baby and Shrek on Netflix. You could never, in good faith, walk away from that type of money, because on streaming, it's all about what's coming out this week to keep customers retained on the platform. So having Shrek in the back catalog isn't really as important for Peacock as having, the new Steph Curry show this week, and then next week we're going to have the new Jordan Peele, Matthew Lillard horror cooking contest show. Like, they are trying to keep those people on platform and keep platform subscribers up, and just kind of storing things and sitting them there in the back catalog. For Boss Baby 3, it's like, sell that shit to Netflix for fucking $4 million. Like, we'll worry about this later. Also, Universal's going to make all of their money on A, licensing, and then B, making Boss Baby 7, which they'll put on Peacock for 2 months exclusivity window, sell it to Netflix, make a ton of money on PVOD. I think that what they're doing is sound. I think it seems tough, because what it kind of points to is how the entire industry is just becoming content creation for like 4 buyers, and one of them is Netflix. Even like Forever Dog, all the way to Universal, is essentially just making content and hoping Netflix buys it. I mean, I could.
But then why? This points to the silliness of that wave where every studio and big company had to have their own streaming service, because it's like, well, why even have Peacock if it just makes more money? It makes more sense to just sell it to Netflix. Like,
because you need like NBC Universal specifically, Comcast. Like, you need if you're going to destroy cable and ABC is going to go the way of the fucking dinosaur and all the network channels are going to die, you have to have like an ad-supported platform so you can generate ad revenue. You can't just there's no way that Paramount, I mean, this might happen now that it's been sold, but from their perspective, they have to have a streamer, because they got to keep it's
up
a
with the
revenue
Joneses.
generator. And if they're going to sell, like, at least that has value. It's an asset that replaces the destructed cable product. It's just not pretty. It was a really bad idea. They should never ever have done streaming. This is why we're all here, because Hollywood created a sustainable model, and now no one has jobs and no one has work, and everyone went on strike, and there's no more production because streaming broke the model that the industry and the unions and the people have worked on for 100 fucking years. It's a disgrace. It's a shame. But I'm saying if I ran Universal, I would be licensing my content to Netflix as well.
Coming up next, we'll be reviewing this week's new releases. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers, it is impossible to give an honest review of these movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we are reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, we recommend you play it safe and skip past that review to the next one. You can find time codes for every episode segment in the show notes. Thank you, and now back to the show. Well, and speaking of the streamers, one of my favorite streamers is Mubi.
Me too.
Next to the Criterion Channel, I think it's just quality. It's just quality over quantity. They have really good movies on there.
They really do.
And they are now.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking nerd. Fuck you. Mubi's fucking awesome. Fuck you.
They have also selectively been getting into distributing movies, and they were the main production company behind The Substance, with Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid, which was one of the big festival hits this year. Had so much buzz coming out of the fest. People were passing out and throwing up in the aisles. They couldn't believe this movie. Oh my God. These cinephiles who apparently have never heard of David Cronenberg they were shocked by The Substance. They couldn't believe what they were seeing on the screen. And perhaps that was one of the reasons why, for me, The Substance, which I saw this week, was a bit of a letdown. I think with that much hype, it's almost inevitably going to be a bit of a letdown, particularly festival hype, which I think I just have to stop paying attention to, because the festival hype is silly. It's like everyone's around each other. They're drinking way too much free champagne, and they're making just crazy assertions about what end up being sort of mid to below mid movies. And The Substance is the latest of those for me. I found it to be a big, flashy, bloody swing and a miss of a movie. But to start with the positives, it looks great. I liked the look of it. I like the style of it. The movie very quickly follows Demi Moore, who is about to turn 50 years old. She is a award-winning actress who has now found a career sort of Jane Fonda-esque as this like aerobics instructor who does this very popular exercise show on TV. She turns 50, and Dennis Quaid, her disgusting, loathsome Hollywood producer, who loves to just chomp on shrimp in some amazing close-up shots. He essentially fires her and then replaces her, puts out a casting call for like, I need a 20 to 25-year-old version of Demi Moore so we can keep this show going, but Demi has officially aged out of Hollywood because she turned 50. Demi Moore then, after getting in a car accident, finds out from this shady nurse at the hospital about something called the substance, where you can rediscover the best, youngest, most beautiful version of yourself, right? And then in sort of Portrait of Dorian Gray style, she takes the substance and she sort of splits into two people, herself and then this younger sort of idealized version of herself played by Margaret Qualley. Margaret Qualley takes over her job, and then there's all these rules about how they have to interact, these two sort of doppelgangers of each other. And then it gets very body horror-y after that, ending with a big bloody climax, but I won't give anything away beyond that. So positives, I thought it looked great, from the aerobics outfits to the sort of Kubrick-inspired narrow carpeted hallways to those aforementioned shrimps that Dennis Quaid is chomping on in close-ups. It gave this sort of surreal nightmare vision of Hollywood, and I thought production designer, cinematographer, I thought those people really played their roles well, and did what was asked of them. And overall, I thought it looked really good. Also, the prosthetics and visual effects I thought were fantastic. It was really just like wall-to-wall body horror, and all of the oozing pus and bones cracking and blood spraying and this big, sort of crazy body effects and everything. I don't think you could do it better. I thought it was just like very well done visual effects, special effects. So congrats to the Substance VFX team for that. I also liked the performances overall. Dennis Quaid just gives a sort of gonzo, insane performance. It's shocking that he did, that I don't know when they were filmed, but like, that he came out with Reagan and The Substance in the same month is one of just the all-time nuts pairings for an actor to come out with in the same month.
Actors are so weird.
They're so weird.
I love them so much. God bless. I'm sure he did them like a week apart.
Yeah. I'm like crazy Hollywood producer chomping on shrimp now. No problem. Let me just take this Ronald Reagan wig off real quick, and then we'll do that. And then Demi Moore, I think, may have hopefully found a sort of Joan Crawford-esque late career renaissance in horror.
She was really great.
I could take more of Demi Moore doing horror.
She was so good.
Immediately.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
Me too.
I thought Margot Qualley is fine. I don't know. I've honestly yet to see. I know she's the it girl. She's going to keep cropping up and stuff. I have honestly yet to see a Margot Qualley performance that makes the hype train make sense to me. I mean, she's totally fine, but but as the it girl, I don't know. I need more. I want more.
Wrong.
Definitely the least memorable of the leads, per usual, per Margot Qualley. So those are the positives, and those are a lot of positives.
That was a lot of positives.
That's a lot of pieces in place for a good movie.
I thought you didn't like it.
The problem was the soul of the movie, the story, the script, the character development or lack thereof, the treatment of the themes, everything that constitutes the meaning of the movie was such a massive letdown and was operating at such a sort of lower level than the aesthetics of the movie. I have no idea how this movie won best script at Cannes. I don't like that is. The script is easily one of the weakest parts of the movie. I have no idea why. Why best script? It's such a weird award to give this movie. The Substance takes
best original screenplay is always for like Spike Jonze. It's creative,
right?
Maybe it's that kind of impulse where it's like
I guess they're giving it to the concept.
Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah, but the dialogue was.
I know. I agree.
Forgettable
of all of the elements. I don't feel like the script was what would be a standout element.
No, because The Substance takes a very familiar theme, the Hollywood's bullshit, and namely the dehumanizing treatment of women in Hollywood and the way women age out of the business in a way that men don't. The movie starts with these themes, and combining those themes with body horror and Demi Moore. I mean, there's a lot of promise and potential here, but it does nothing interesting or new with those themes. I felt the treatment of those themes was so basic, and more than basic, those themes didn't go anywhere over the course of the movie. A movie like this really would benefit from some twists and some turns where like a theme turns in on itself, where, you know, or a character like surprises you with a choice, or sort of characters like team up in an unexpected way. But this movie kind of like really felt like a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy type of movie, where the director knew where they wanted to go from the beginning and then just took the quickest path there and didn't, you know, sort of think about sort of more interesting ways of getting from point A to point B. Because a movie like this, I really think would benefit from, you know, it doesn't like interrogate itself. It doesn't seem interested in itself. It seems very sort of like, it's like, I know what I'm going to say, and then we're just going to say it over and over and over and over again. The movie felt just a little too full of itself, and it could have gone through a couple more drafts and found some more interesting twists to the way it wanted to tell its story. The relationship, you know, between Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley is an example of that. It heightens. Like, their dynamic is crucial to the movie. Essentially, sort of a younger and older version of the same person in Hollywood. That dynamic is central to the movie, but that dynamic doesn't change at all. I was like sure at some point I thought maybe they were going to start teaming up or something. Like, it never changes. It's just the same dynamic from start to finish. And on top of that, like, I have no idea why Dennis Quaid's character doesn't really face any sort of consequences in the movie. Like, it's a body horror movie where Demi Moore is slowly exploding over the course of an hour. How does Dennis Quaid not get like a fork stuck in his eye or something? It's like why are there no rules to what we can do to Demi Moore, but we can't like have a fun death for Dennis Quaid? All of this though really points to a big issue with the movie. My biggest issue, which is that it ends up, because the themes end up being sort of surface, because there's some missed opportunities with some side characters, it ends up just being this sort of one-dimensional like spectacle of suffering. It's like the Book of Job starring Demi Moore. You just sort of watch her suffer and get tortured over the course of the movie. And there's a potential for a type of movie there that would work, but this movie is so like intentionally about the themes of the exploitation that actresses undergo in Hollywood, and the way that they are just sort of chewed up and spit out and treated as objects and not treated as humans. It's about that theme, but I feel like the movie, more than critiquing that theme, just does that to Demi Moore in the movie. Demi Moore's character has so little power or agency or like willpower or like ingenuity. Like, she can't figure any way out of her situation. She barely fights back against her fate. She doesn't come close to any form of like redemption or revenge, really. And if the movie was like more of a realistic movie, that level of like pessimism could work, where the movie is just saying, yes, this is the reality of the situation, is the powerlessness to fight against these massive forces. But the movie is not a realistic movie. It's a highly stylized genre movie. And so I think this movie should have been more about providing a sort of cathartic alternative or corrective to reality, because that seems to be what the tone of the movie is demanding, is for Demi Moore to make these fuckers pay. Beyond that, like, the movie, it takes a lot of freedom in its depiction of Hollywood. You know, like, it's the kind of movie where it doesn't really have reference points in real life. Like, the biggest stars in Hollywood are TV aerobics instructors, and then there are these billboards that like face the Hollywood hills. It's a fairy tale, right? So with that structure in mind, I think it would have benefited more from leaning into a sort of cathartic revenge tale, as opposed to just like, you know, just you suffer until you die kind of a plot. So I felt like it doesn't really have much to say about the things that it's about, and it felt like a wasted opportunity, and it felt like a waste of some really good body horror. Big disappointment.
I thought the substance was terrific. I really liked it. I thought it was great. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it was great. I don't think you're wrong that it's surface. I think it's actually one note the entire way through. For old 2.5 hours, it is kind of obsessed with one theme, not sort of diverting from that theme and just hitting that theme over and over and over again. But I think it's a really like blunt force sort of reactionary movie. It's just like a sun flare of sort of emotion and sexual frustration. And though its Hollywoodness is so thin, I think it's just more about women, or even more specifically about all of our bullshit around our bodies, and how torturous it is to watch, the qualies do their thing when they all seem so perfect, and just how time comes for you and it's just fucking brutal. And it must be so much, imagine being Demi Moore, like to have to go through the fucking 80s, 90s, like Hollywood ringer as such like a iconoclastic young woman, and like then get thrown away and put back. So obviously good casting there. I thought the movie was really like blunt and mean and just like pissed off, kind of nasty, and a little silly, but interested in what it was wanted to do. I think some of the references were a little heavy-handed. I think some of the pop impulses were not for me. I like it a little bit more chill, but I gotta say, like, looked really good. Great performances. I loved you complimented the sort of the art direction, and I liked the substance stuff, and I liked how the rules were cut and clear. I liked that it was fairy tale. I loved when Dennis Quaid, when he's introduced to his character, when he like runs up to the camera and pulls his cock out to piss and is like yelling and chewing in your ear, right, really angry at the camera. And I just thought that it was just an angry, inventive sort of camera that felt fresh. You said this movie is so sexist. I think we have to fucking, I don't think this movie is trying to be nuanced or light or delicate. I think we just have to we have to confront our sort of like disgusting obsession as a world culture with like young women's bodies. And this movie like puts you, the viewer, through the emotional ringer with the amount of like bodies and butts. And at the end, when spoiler, when the monster like spits a boob out as sort of like a peace offering, and then once she shows her true self to everybody turns on her and they have some big bombastic ending. It is not a knife. This movie is a sledgehammer. I don't think it's the world's most impactful movie. I don't think it has earth-shattering themes, but I think it was like excellently done. I loved the performances. I loved Quali, and I liked Quali in Drive Away Dolls, even though that movie's not really that great. What does she have? She's beautiful and talented and all the things that would piss Demi Moore off in this movie. And it was fun seeing Demi. I want to stand up for this movie a little bit and just sort of, we all want to go see a gross out horror. Like, why don't they make Reanimator anymore, dude? Why don't they make Blob 88? Well, they did. It's just about women this time. So you're going to have to fucking sit there and take it if you want your midnight slop. Also, all the effects and the horror stuff was great when she came out of the back. Demi Moore's old finger with beautiful makeup and effects that was. I don't think this is Best Picture. I don't think it's my favorite horror movie of the year, but I definitely know that this movie's terrific. And I look forward to watching more of Farragut's work as she continues.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understand. I understand your point. It's just
I feel I don't like I don't disagree. I don't think the movie is striving for some great insight. I think it's just like doing its fairy tale and just doing it well, and all of its elements are really fun and good. Like, would recommend is better than your average horror movie, especially this year. And I thought the performances were great. I think that we look for this kind of movie, and then they made one, and now we're mad at it.
Well, but you don't get a pass just because you make the type of movie. You still have to execute the movie.
I think they did.
And it just felt
really good.
It just felt ultimately a little empty of an experience to me, with some missed opportunities in terms of the.
It ain't deep. It ain't deep.
No.
It's just it's not deep, but we still haven't, like, despite Me Too, despite every fucking thing, we're never going to get over this sort of fucking fixation.
Maybe it was just my
expectations.
expectations then. Maybe if I had gone in just expecting like a B, if I had gone in just expecting Society, maybe I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. We got to stop this festival buzz thing. Screws everything
No, but
up.
Brett, I heard actually a bunch of people that I really trust their takes around town, kind of saying what you were saying, men and women. Like, I think this movie is has a lot of interesting conversation, and I would definitely recommend people check it out.
People should definitely see it.
It's a fucking fun movie. It's not like I'm sending you to some fucking homework.
No.
It's a easy to watch if you're into horror and bodies.
Now let's talk about Wolves with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. We've been talking a lot about this movie in recent weeks because of its just dystopian distribution scheme, which is that this is an Apple produced movie that is going to end up on Apple TV in a couple weeks. But before it ends up on Apple TV, they are doing a extremely limited theatrical release. It's in 2 theaters here in LA, limited times. It's in a couple more theaters. So basically just like a fake theatrical release. But they also...
Faker than Megalopolis, the ultimate experience.
Truly.
Like, you cannot find Wolves screening anywhere.
I went to a 10:30 screening in
PM?
in Culver City. Yeah.
PM in Culver City?
Yep. Oh no, sorry, Sherman Oaks. So that nice theater in Sherman Oaks.
Thank God. Oh my God.
Which has a very nice bartender, by the way. If you go to the Sherman Oaks theater at for the late screenings,
those Regal theaters are so beautiful.
They're so nice.
Don't tell AMC.
They're so nice.
They're so gorgeous.
They're so nice. The second Regal gets its act together and gets like some sort of membership plan, I'm joining.
See you there.
They might have it already. So it's had this bizarre distribution plan, but on top of that, they paid Brad Pitt and George Clooney $45 million each. $45 million each. They pay the director another $30 million. That's director John Watts. So it's this bizarre combination of like a high budget with a very limited distribution plan. They're clearly not expecting to make any money from the theatrical release. This is just for streaming. And like you said, Apple is beyond too big to fail. They're the mono company. They can do whatever they want. And your prediction was that this is just so they can put Brad Pitt and George Clooney's faces on every iPhone and every Apple store all over the country. It's just
easy marketing.
Brand marketing, yes. So we've been making fun of this fake movie for a long time now. I finally got to see it this week. And Joe?
What?
Wolves is a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie.
Here we go.
I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty good.
Tell me why.
All right. It feels it's a bit of it's like a mashup of Ocean's 11 and Michael Clayton. It's not as good as either of those masterpieces, but that kind of gets you in the ballpark of what the movie is. It has an Ocean's 11 vibe and kind of dialogue, but more in a sort of noir-y Michael Clayton world. It's a little smaller than those movies too. It feels more like I don't know. This is like the Mikey and Nicky of the Pitt Clooney universe. And I'm trying to get people in the ballpark, Joe. Man, I'm not saying it's like
I'm
those
just
movies.
Breathing into the mic.
You do this all the time. When I said that, when I was talking about Zoe Kravitz's influences for Blink Twice, you're like, this movie's not like Fellini. I know it's not like Fellini. I'm just saying I'm trying to get people in the ballpark of the language of the movie. But you can tell this director was trying to make sort of a small New York City crime thing, and then somehow he got George Clooney and Brad Pitt to be in it, so that sort of made it more of a Rat Pack-y, buddy kind of vibe. But to me, it all worked. I mean, it's not a great movie. I would say it's a B or a B+, but for all the shit we've been giving it, I had a perfectly fun time at this movie. I enjoyed it. It was easy breezy crime thing with two guys who have a dynamic. It reminded me of those fun, like when you'll see on TCM or Criterion, like a late career Cary Grant or Robert Mitchum movie or something, where it's like not one of their classics, but they still got the charm, they still got the vibe, and they ended up in some sort of low budgety crime thing at the end of their careers. It felt like that. There was a nice role in it for that kid, for the third member of their little crew. I'm sorry, I don't know that actor's name. I'm going to guess it was who is this? I don't know who it was.
The kid from Wolves.
The kid from Wolves. You know the kid from Wolves.
Austin Abrams.
Okay, yeah. So that kid was good. Amy Ryan's in it for a second.
She was actually good.
Was that Frances McDormand's voice in it?
Yes.
That was Frances McDormand's voice. Okay, we never saw Frances McDormand.
I can you believe? Like, what a fucking fuck
movie.
you.
But despite all of this, it's also so funny that they got $45 million each for a movie that took 5 days for them to film. Okay, look, but all of that, this is the magic of the movies. Beyond all of that considering, I cannot tell you that I had a bad time at Wolves. I sat there, I watched it. It was in and out 90 minutes. It was a fun little
That was 90
movie.
minutes?
I mean, was it? It wasn't much longer than that, was it? That was short. That was short.
That was short. It was 108 minutes.
108 minutes, right? So I had a perfectly fun time at it. Clooney and Pitt are competing like fixers that both get called in to fix the same crime, and there's a little bit of sort of political conspiracy thing going on, but overall there's not really much of a plot. They just have it turns out, and you see this in the trailer, this is not a spoiler, the body that they've come there to dispose of, the kid's not actually dead, and so he wakes up during the process of trying to dispose of his body, and they have to track him down and figure out what's going on, and there's
Austin
like a drug element, Austin Abrams in a star-making turn in Wolves. Look, what am I going to tell you? Am I going to tell you I had a bad time in this movie? Because I didn't. I had a perfectly fun time at this movie. I had a very good time with this movie. You're going to have to, I guess, watch it on Apple TV when it comes out. You're not going to find it at a theater anywhere time soon. You are giving me the vibes of someone who did not enjoy Wolves.
Wolves was dog shit.
Oh!
No, Wolves was like laughably bad. Pitt and Clooney, shame on you. Okay, Clooney gave
laughably bad.
It is so bad. Every scene is horrendously written. It's like Abbott and Costello, but even less funny. Like they are the two worst Abbott and Costello guys ever. And Clooney and Pitt, Clooney on 15 to 20% charisma, Pitt on 0%, I'm going to go to jail / all my kids hate me charisma. And they're doing soft Abbott and Costello. Do you know a guy? Yeah, I have a guy. Is it my guy? No, it's my guy. Hey, you don't have a guy. I have a guy. All right, I have a guy. It's just like the worst. Like these guys are. They're so unfunny in this. They bring nothing to the table. The kid is horrible. The writing is so bad. The shots are laughable. John Watts, like, here's some things. Like, get a writer, get an editor, and fuck it, get a director. I felt like. It's so weird to me because Pitt was just so good 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. Pitt was so masterful, so brilliant, so movie star. And to see him like this, it was like, Pitt, I get it. You're too cool for school, but for 45 mil, can you give me 10 to 15%?
I do. All right. I want to put an asterisk on my review.
Okay.
Pitt was the low point. Pitt was the low point.
Disappointed.
Pitt was the low point.
Because we just saw Once Upon a Time where Pitt was a high point.
No. Pitt. Well, I mean, look, we know all the shit about his personal life. This guy's a trash bag. But but
he's got movie star charisma for days and days. He's literally
We're
Brad
just talking
Pitt.
about the movie right now.
He's Brad Pitt.
In the movie, his shtick is simultaneously so phoned in and so tired in this movie. I think Clooney seemed locked in.
Clooney's trying to keep it up.
Working.
But you know what a real failure of the movie was?
Yeah.
They just should have became friends at the 30-minute mark. They become friends at the 107-minute mark, and to watch them do the same I don't like you shtick for like an hour plus was so tough for me. The 3 or 4 moments when they got along, I was like, okay, now we're gonna have some. I don't know what it was about this movie, but I was like, if I have to see them doing miserable, soft, hate you shtick, I'm gonna jump out the window. Amy Ryan's great. She's a class act.
It just all moved so fast that it didn't feel that long.
I thought it was so long. The scenes in the safari room, first of all, the tired jokes of like a vague homophobia, and then it's extends, and then he does a big long Diet Pirate-esque monologue. Shout out to people that know.
Very inside baseball.
He does a big
Silent Bob.
He does a big long monologue all of a sudden. It's so boring. It's so silly. The action scenes are silly. It's a silly movie. It's kind of bad. I know what you liked about it because I kept trying to tap into those veins, which I have, and they are ready to be tapped. The vein of Clooney and Pitt are charming and doing a two-hander and doing a crime thing. It's oh God, just the plot didn't really matter. It's it really didn't matter.
Here's what I liked about it is I had seen The Substance the previous night, and I was like, oh God, another just overhyped, overblown movie that can't stand up to its expectations. And then I go and see a movie no one knows about or is talking about, and it was just nice. It was just a nice movie to watch in a theater. It's not a masterpiece.
It's not a masterpiece.
It's not a disaster. It's not a disaster.
I'm not trying to be mean. I thought it was pretty terrible. I thought it was really bad. I thought it was really bad.
All right, well, you'll be able to decide for yourselves when this thing comes
only
out on
on
Apple
Apple,
TV in a couple weeks.
Decide for yourself.
All right, let's talk about oh god. Next up, Transformers 1, I guess. Okay, so Transformers 1, which underperformed at the box office. Talk about a mess, Joe. This movie is a mess of a movie.
Really?
Oh
People
my god.
fake liked it.
They're wrong.
Okay.
It's ostensibly, again, it's sort of lost in the middle of being for Comic-Con nerds or being for kids, but it is ostensibly for kids. It's made by the guy that did Toy Story 4.
Oh.
But it could not be less appealing for kids. I don't know if these people like know what kids are like or what. Like, I don't understand how like these kids movies are operating these days, because number one, this script is so bogged down by like in-universe lore and terminology. It is, I'm not exaggerating, impossible to follow. The first 5 minutes are so much like, it's such a dense information dump, part of it in a voiceover. But then even when you get into the characters and they're doing an action scene, the dialogue in the scenes is so dense. And like, it's like the terminology is just like such a burden. It's so hard to make sense of what's going on. It's so impossible to follow. Combined with the fact that it's going at this like breakneck screwball pacing, and like the voice actors, you can hear them are struggling to keep up with the dialogue at the speed they're going at. And so they end up giving these performances where like you can tell they're just trying to remember how to pronounce all the terminology. There's like no intonation, there's no performance. It's just like people like trying not to fuck up the terminology so the Comic-Con nerds don't get mad at them. And then number two, the animation is a mess. The compositions, I thought from some of the marketing that they were going to go for this like sort of 80s retro thing that harkened back to the TV show.
That's what I thought.
Excited by that. Why did I think a studio would greenlight a movie like that? No,
because they just did with the Spider-Man one. The animation was so pretty and people loved it. Not that.
It's like it's like Industrial Light and Magic did the animation, but it's like somebody at Industrial Light and Magic poured like 6 Red Bulls into their computer and then left it on overnight. The compositions are so overcrowded with like Transformers and futuristic cityscape stuff and impossibly detailed sci-fi technology. It is a mess. And for kids, what is the number one kids? Why do you think Peppa Pig is so popular?
Straightforward.
Kids want clarity and simplicity in animation. They cannot fucking look at 100 fucking things going on at once. So I don't know why they thought kids would like this movie. It's impossible to follow the dialogue, and the animation is just a nightmare mess. And finally, Joe, maybe the worst part of the whole movie, the fucking humor in this movie. If I have to sit through one more movie that for some unknown reason is bogged down to the point of inanity with, well, that just happened kind of jokes, I'm going to fucking fill that substance syringe full of acid and pump it into my ears so I don't have to hear anything else for the rest of my life. Here's a message to 95% of screenwriters working today, particularly the ones whose Wikipedia photo shows them hunched over a table at Comic-Con. You're not funny. You're not funny. You're not funny. And guess what? That's fine. We don't need you to be funny. This is like Marvel fucked up everyone's sense of like how to, like what movies are supposed to be funny and how to do humor in those movies. And I'm not saying that like a movie like Transformers or comic book movies don't need comic relief. They need comic relief. They need plenty of comic relief. But like they need like cinematic comic relief. Not this like not this like lines that are from like a Parks and Recreation like spec script, or like somebody watched like a supercut of Star-Lord's best one-liners and then did bad versions of that for 2 hours. It's like, you don't have to do any of that. There are plenty of other registers you should be existing in when you're writing a script for a fucking Transformers movie. There should be like cool lines, like tough guy lines. There should be like some corny lines. Write less, tighten this shit up, and make it more cinematic. And it's fine if not all the one-liners hit. That's part of the fun of a popcorn movie, is when you sort of groan at some of the bad one-liners. But this like talky, rambly, sitcom-y imitation of comedy screenwriting is such a fucking bummer. It's not for the movies. Leave it in television. And not just because it's not funny, again, because it's not cinematic. It's small, it's boring, it's mumbly. It's got no place in popcorn movies. Stop it.
Joss Whedon disease.
Seriously. Yeah. Seriously, Joss Whedon disease. You're right. This goes back before Marvel. Thank you very much. That's my review of Transformers 1. Joe, you saw Never Let Go with Halle Berry.
Alejandro Aja's new horror film,
Great
Never
director.
Let Go. Brett, he is a great director. The guy started the French, what's it called? The new French Extremity, which was extreme French horror right after 9/11 with his movie High Tension, which if you haven't seen is a must. And later in America, he went on to make a movie Crawl, which I think is super underrated. It's an amazing alligator disaster film that is so amazing and good. And he made
Crawl's great.
He made A Hills Have Eyes. That's pretty good. He's a very competent filmmaker, very sharp and technically proficient, and very good at stakes and increasingly heightening stakes. In Never Let Go, Halle Berry returns, thank the Lord, to play the mom of these
Welcome
two
back,
little
baby.
boys. And the whole thing is like, it's a fairy tale-esque sort of setting where you have to tie a rope to yourself tie a rope to the house and tie a rope to yourself, and then you can walk out, because you can never let go from the house because the house keeps you safe. And when you let go, terrible things afoot attack you and you can never let go. So the kids are prisoners in their own houses. Cool. It's sort of, this is not a spoiler, it's very suggested in the first 20-30 minutes, like, wait, is Halle Berry crazy or not?
That's in the trailer.
That's the plot of the movie. And then the kids, one of them doesn't believe in Halle Berry and one does, and then they navigate and negotiate their relationship throughout the thing. It's a little heightened in its sort of like language and sort of its themes. It feels very fairy tale-y. I think Halle Berry gives a really solid performance. I think the two boys give a rock solid performance. Aha's ghouls and ghosts and monsters in this, they're used very deftly, but they're incredibly beautiful, and the hair and makeup and effects are very scary and very restrained and mature. It's very like patient, sort of a slower movie. It has some nice twists and turns. Overall, I didn't find it like completely and totally effective. I wasn't swept away, but enough really sharp, smart people working on this movie to make it worth everyone's time. Check it out if you're an Aha completist, if you like Halle Berry. Not one of my favorite horror movies of the year, but a nice solid piece of filmmaking. I'm sure when all the dust settles, people will have it number 4 on their list of favorite Aha movies.
Aja. I'd like to talk to you lastly in our new release section about A Different Man from A24, directed by Aaron Schimberg, starring Sebastian Stan from the Marvel Universe, but a guy who's been taking some very, very interesting roles of late. He was great in I, Tonya. I loved him in that Pam and Tommy TV show. He played Tommy Lee. He's very good.
I love I, Tonya.
And of course, we got him as Donald Trump in The Apprentice coming out very soon here. So very interesting guy who, and I was reading some of the background of Different Man. He was very, instrumental, and he found the script, really liked it, was instrumental in getting it made. So this is a guy I'm rooting for. He seems to be down to make interesting movies and wants to make interesting movies. A Different Man is about a guy named Edward who suffers from neurofibromatosis, which causes his face to be sort of malformed or different or bigger, and different things there. And he is also an actor, though, but because of his disability, he only gets roles in like corporate training videos about how to deal with people with disabilities. He can't get, even though there's an early audition scene where he gives a stunning rendition of a Cyrano de Bergerac monologue. It's like he's like knows there's no chance for him to get cast in any of these things. He much like the substance, he finds out about this special treatment that can reverse the effects of neurofibromatosis. I don't think it's real. There's the movie nicely has a very nice, it has Charlie Kaufman kind of obvious influences, but in a way that like also retains enough realism that like they don't the movie never, particularly in sort of the first 2 acts, never feels like fantasy, even though it has these nice little like slight surreal touches to them. But a lot of it feels like Synecdoche, New York sort of elements. And so I don't think this treatment that he undergoes in the movie is real. In other words, I think that's all made up, but it basically completely reverses the effects, and he then looks like Sebastian Stan for the middle part of the movie, and that is better for him in certain ways, but then he begins to feel like he's sort of lost his identity. And then the big twist, there is another character that shows up that has neurofibromatosis, played by the actor Adam Pearson. Adam Pearson, who has this condition in real life. Adam Pearson has been in Under the Skin, the amazing Jonathan Glazer movie. He was in a previous movie directed by Aaron Schimberg. He's fantastic in this as well. But the appearance of this character then begins to make Edward, Sebastian Stan, feel very sort of competitive, and like this guy is sort of taking over, what used to be my life, and like, so it has a lot of interesting interplay and a lot of interesting themes about identity and exploitation and victimhood, and it does what I wish the substance would do, which is constantly turning on itself, constantly sort of interrogating itself, interrogating its own themes, and trying to give a more sort of complex handling of those themes that is sort of very ugly and real and raw at times, and is not just trying to sort of get patted on the back for making a movie about someone with a disability. So the movie has I thought the handling of its themes was very sophisticated, very interesting. The first two acts of the movie I thought were fantastic. They were stunning, they were visionary. I kind of thought we were, after those first two acts, that we were on that verge of one of the best movies of the year. I will say I thought it went off the rails a bit in the last 30 minutes and kind of lost track of itself. To me, it didn't really know how to end, and so it opts for some big moves that kind of ring false. It also gets near the end, it got a little too, because they are actors and there's like a theme of a play being written in this. It got a little too invested in like industry themes of like actors and writers and fame, and less about the more sort of existential themes of identity and victimhood and exploitation that it was doing so well with, and finding a lot of interesting stuff in. It sort of softened in terms of its thematics by the end. But overall, it's definitely worth seeing. It's I think one of A24's best releases of the year, and kind of a down year for them. Yeah. But I think Janet Planet's the best movie they've come out this year. But then I would put this on a next tier with Love Lies Bleeding and I Saw the TV Glow. I know you like Civil War. You love Civil War. So that's certainly in the conversation as well. But this is definitely one of their better releases this year. Yeah, definitely worth seeing.
Sounds great.
Just a truly unique, interesting movie that may not be perfect, but is definitely worth seeing, worth supporting. Also, shout out to Renata Reinsve, who was from The Worst Person in the World. That actress is in this, which is very cool. She's so good. She's amazing. So overall, great performances by the leads. Really interesting vision. Really fascinating execution, particularly in the first two acts of the movie. And yeah, overall, I would recommend it. That brings us to the end of the first hour of movies, baby. And next week, it's going to be a big one. Next week is the big one, because we got Megalopolis
finally
to see and talk about. Megalopolis. We'll finally get a look at this thing. There he is, holding his measuring stick.
He's gonna build us
his mighty measuring stick.
Gotta have a debate.
And then wow, Saturday Night came out fast. I feel like we were just seeing the first trailer a couple weeks ago. Saturday Night is in theaters. That says October 11th, but it's already out in theaters here in LA. This weekend. So I guess in limited release. So we'll get a look at that. I'm very excited about The Wild Robot. It's giving me Iron Giant vibes. It's giving me like top tier animated movie vibes. People are saying it's really moving.
People say it's great.
They're calling it DreamWorks Best Animated Movie, which is like Shrek is like, excuse me? What? Say what now? And then in the second hour next week, I cannot wait for this. We have been binging. We're watching every Coppola movie.
Yeah, man.
Starting with Dementia 13.
Yep. All the way
through the big ones. One from the Heart. The Rainmaker is John Grisham movie. We're watching every Coppola movie. We've already started. And we are going to give you, we said top 5. I'm wondering
official ranking
if we should do top 10.
I'll rank them all.
Rank them all? All right, maybe we should rank them all.
Maybe he deserves an all ranking.
All right, we'll rank them all.
It's something to think about. Because
of that just stunning
top 5's
run from Godfather to Apocalypse Now. Top 4 are already spoken for.
They're that good.
They're that good.
I just rewatched Apocalypse Now this weekend. Like, it's the best movie ever made.
You
know what I mean? Like, it's
spoiler alert. That's my take.
It's going to be in top 5.
Right? But I will say, he is. What's so fascinating about Coppola is among like the big names of New Hollywood, among the major like top tier American directors. I think he has like the lowest low points. Like he like. I mean, but I've already seen like 6 stinkers that like Scorsese has never come close to being that bad.
Right.
But it's fascinating. Right. I love it because he's always going big. He's going weird. He's going unique and singular. But man, there are some like big stinkers in that filmography.
It's pretty cool. I can't wait to talk about it.
Okay, all right. Wait to talk about it. Let's rank best to worst then.
That sounds
Let's
fun.
rank best to worst. Okay, that'll be next week. But for now, we have another big task ahead of us in the second hour. We're going to be picking the roster for our new season of Weekend at Bergman's. We're doing the 1980s. So we're going to be pairing up art house movies with popcorn movies that share a theme. I want to do a field of 64, so we're gonna have to come up with 32 pairings. Woo. 32 pairings, and then we're gonna start doing these episodes in October. We'll do some horror themed ones in October, and then we're gonna be doing them sort of like 2 or 3 a month, moving forward in the second hour of our Thursday night show until we get to the end. But this is probably gonna take us like a year to get through this, so I'm excited. We're gonna have a year of 1980s Bergmans coming up for you, and good God, there are so many amazing movies that came out in the 1980s. So this is going to be fun. We'll do that in the second hour. So if you're on Patreon, you'll just stay where you are, sit tight, and it'll be coming up in a second. If you're not, go over to patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You can sign up for free just to keep track of what we're doing over there. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. So if you want to join us for Weekend at Bergman's draft tonight, just go sign up for a free trial on patreon.com right now. You can join us for the draft.
It's going to be fun.
And then you can see what you think. See if you want to stick around or not. But I hope that you do. So all of that's coming your way in about 10 minutes.
See you there.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you there. Bye.
Bye-bye.